All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you guys to the AFC, where we advocate for children first. A lot of people have come to this channel and they know that I talk a lot about spanking. I personally believe that parents should keep their hands, feet, and other objects to themselves. But a lot of people who was raised in the era, like I was, that was raised in an era where you were spanked and beaten and hit and kicked and made to do just heinous things. And you thought, well, because you went through it, you thought it was a normal thing. Well, I know that it's not normal because I've actually seen methods that work better than doing it that way. But I've actually had some people in the comment section ask me like, well, why don't you bring on an expert? Well, I'll tell you guys, I ran across this video right here of this young lady, and I'm hoping she'll give her information out so you'll know who she is and how to find her. But I thought it was really interesting what she said, because what she said matches up with what the AFC says a lot of times about these situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video, but let you guys hear her video. But let me give you the federal law allows the fair usage. If I can turn it down a little bit, my goodness. Hold on. Or can citizens to reproduce, distribute. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. All right, here we go.
The American Academy of Pediatrics, based on available science and literature, recommends against the use of corporal punishment. Hey guys, welcome back. Mama Dr. Jones, OBGYN, and Mom24. I don't know if I ever thought I would be making a video about this, but there happens to be a wide array of very good literature on this subject. So today we're talking about spanking, and I'm probably going to make some of you angry.
Who does she sound like? Does she not sound like me a little bit? You think I'm going to piss you guys off a little bit? Well, all right, let's get it.
I happened to pull up the Philip DeFranco show this evening, and there was a story about a small YouTuber who posted a video of her 2-year-old crying in the background because she had spanked them about a makeup palette that the child had ruined. In the defense of that video, when it started picking up traction and she was getting a little bit of backlash, she said, I don't want to defend myself to you people who don't even have children.
I shouldn't have to explain my parenting to people who aren't parents. And to that I would say, well, hello.
I've never stopped another YouTube video so fast to come up to this room and make my own video as I did today. I am not only a mom with 4 children, including one who is 3 and absolutely insane, but I'm also a doctor. I have an opinion, and so does science.
So she says she's a doctor. Does that sound like a credible opinion? If you ask me, I think so. Let's get it.
We're going to start by calling this what it is. If you spank your child, you use hitting as physical punishment. This person said in their text, it's a Southern thing. I grew up in the South.
How many times have I said that? So a lot of you guys are now going to hear this from a doctor. So question me if you want to, but the stuff that I'm telling you guys is coming from a credible source. Let's finish hearing her video.
I don't care what you call it. It's hitting. You're hitting your child. Let's talk about the science, and then if I need to, because I'm pretty sure it may already be clear how I feel about this issue, I'll throw in my personal opinion at the end. Spanking is largely looked down upon by almost every professional pediatric association which is affiliated with modern medicine. American Academy of Psychiatry, American Humane Association, National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners, National Association of Social Workers. All of these major child protection and or child medical organizations have come out saying they believe Spanking should not be used. The American Academy of Pediatrics, based on available science and literature, recommends against the use of corporal punishment because it is not effective and is associated with negative effects.
So you guys hear this. So that means that they can actually prove that it has negative effects. You don't just have to believe me. What's the difference between hitting and popping? Pamela Moore, there is no difference. I want to make sure that I'm clear. What I say is an all-inclusive statement. A parent should not put their hands, feet, or other objects on children to discipline them in any shape, form, or fashion. I always try to explain it like this. A child is a child. And I'm sorry, but if you don't have the mental power, the wherewithal as an adult and as a parent to control or teach or guide a baby, then I'm sorry. I just don't really know what people are doing. And it scares me to think that people choose to be parents and they can't reason with a child. Think about that. I think that we should probably be doing less procreating if we cannot reason with a child. If we cannot outthink a child, outsmart a child, lead and guide a child with our minds, then I've always told people this. Then what you want to do is you want to instill fear. When you hit a person or hit a child, what if I would have hit my girlfriend? I'm just like, well, she keep going out and doing stuff I don't like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smack her in the mouth and maybe she won't go out no more. She'll be scared of me. Do you think that girlfriend will respect me? No. She's going to fear me. But that woman is old enough and big enough to defend herself. But in a situation where you have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a child that's half your size, what is that child going to do to defend themselves against the tyranny of their caretaker? They can't do anything to defend themselves. They're not big enough. They're not smart enough. And that's why I say it makes you become a proverbial bully, a real actual bully. Okay? So hopefully everybody understands where I'm coming from, but don't take it from me. Don't take it from the AFC. Take it away, doctor. Let's hear it from doctor. Let's get it. Let's hear it from a doctor, a professional.
But aside from that, most human rights associations believe that hitting a child as a form of punishment is a violation of human rights. The United Nations has unequivocally said corporal punishment and other cruel and degrading forms of punishment are forms of violence. And they go on to further say that the corporal punishment violates Article 19 of the Convention, which protects children from all forms of physical or mental violence. They, the United Nations, go on to state that this should be banned in all contexts.
But you guys also have to remember, I know a lot of people, because this is my first time watching this all the way through. As soon as I started hearing it, like the first couple sentences, I said, no, I got to show this to our people. But a lot of people don't remember what my actual history is. But I've told you guys I used to actually be a youth counselor for Kanakuk camps. Okay? It's a faith-based organization. But on top of that, it just employs a lot of things that I think are good for kids all the way around. I've dealt with hundreds of kids. Matter of fact, once I became like a certain age, I actually had a lot of those kids that became grown. And one of them in particular, and shout out to Danielle, by the way, but he ended up hiring me to do his wedding once he got married. And I was his counselor. So a lot of those kids now that I used to counsel are grown now. So I've watched these methods actually work. And these people not only respect me, they don't fear me, but they respect me. It's a way that this thing works. And I'm just saying, if what you're doing doesn't work, then maybe you should try something else. Because I'm just saying, at some point, when you continue to beat your kid or pop your kid or spank your kid or whatever it is that you want to call it, if they continue to do those things that continue to keep employing these discipline methods, then maybe what you're doing is not working. I'm not just saying just talk and talk and talk and talk. No. You got to teach. You have to employ better habits. How you get there is going to vary from person to person and from household to household. I'm just saying, if you guys are wondering why what I'm saying sounds so familiar when you hear it from her, then you just got to understand that our mindset is in the same place. That's all I'm saying. But don't hear it from me. Let's hear it from the doctor.
What have we established so far? The United Nations most medically oriented and violence prevention pediatric associations have deemed corporal punishment and or spanking, hitting, popping, whatever you decide you want to call it, as not okay. In fact, the conclusion on this kind of conglomeration of all the literature is we now have enough research to conclude that spanking is ineffective at best and harmful to children at worst. Okay, we've reviewed a little bit of what these organizations say. So why is it that they believe this? The data really strongly indicates that physical punishment for a child does not improve their behavior. And I will link, as usual, studies about all of this in the description box. There is very strong literature that indicates that using physical violence or spanking as a form of punishment for children is associated with an increased chance of that child going on to be physically violent as an adult. In what way? An increased risk of aggression, dating violence, and intimate partner violence as an adult.
I've told you guys that plenty of times, but I'm just saying, like I said, all I'm asking for people to do is just keep an open mind. That's all.
As a form of punishment for children is associated with an increased chance of that child going on to be physically violent as an adult. In what way? An increased risk of aggression, dating violence, and intimate partner violence as an adult. Does that mean that every kid who is spanked becomes an aggressive, violent adult? No. That doesn't mean that if you were spanked as a child, you have to grow up and be aggressive. And it doesn't mean that every person who is an aggressive or violent adult is that way because they were spanked as a child. That is not what a correlation means. But it does mean that there is a link there. If the benefit is great, every kid who is spanked has much better improvement in their behavior, then maybe we try to reason out that correlation a little better. But when you see a correlation that says spanking does not improve the behavior that you're trying to use it as discipline for, and you see this correlation to potentially being more violent as an adult, it just doesn't make sense anymore. In my book, doing things the way we've always done them, purely because that's the way we've always done them, makes no sense.
How many times have I said that? I always refer to spanking as a Neanderthal method. And what I mean is just because that's what we've grown up in doesn't mean that we have to continue to do that same thing. Right? Just because it's something that we were given doesn't mean that we have to pass it on. That's exactly what I've done with me and my daughter's situation. And I would hope that once her generation comes up and becomes the adults, that they would pass on something better than what I've given her. That's the way it's supposed to work.
I'm going to jump out of science me and into mom me. When I got married, I told my husband, like, spanking's off the table. He's like a very kind and gentle person in general, so it's very easy to convince him of that. But he has said, like, if that hadn't been something that I really put my foot down about, he may not have felt that way. But that many times since then, he has been very frustrated with the children, as have I, and thought, I'm really glad we don't spank because that would be an outlet for me to get my aggression out on a kid, and that's not okay. If I'm going to teach my child that the correct way to manage problems that you have in your life is to use your words, and then I'm going to turn around and correct their behavior with my hands, I'm failing them. The best thing you can do for your kid is set an example. Don't come at me with, I was spanked as a child and I turned out just fine. Great. I'm very happy for you. Science doesn't care what you as an individual had as an outcome. The population data says if you were hit as a child, you are more likely to be physically violent as an adult.
That's because you've learned fear. And what happens when you kick a dog in the corner? That dog is eventually going to lash out or it's going to die. It's going to lash out and attack or it's going to cower and die. It's not a smart thing to do to control anybody with fear. It's better to earn respect. I've always given my daughter respect, and guess what it's done? She respects me back. Respect reciprocates. But I'll have to show you kind of what our dynamic is if you guys ever want to see us on a stream together. We've done a couple of streams together if you've never seen those. But I'll have to bring her out here to Texas, man. And I'll have to show y'all what our dynamic, what our relationship is like. But it works.
That doesn't mean every single person who was spanked as a child is a violent adult. But there is a correlation, and it matters. Don't come at me and tell me that the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil a child. With the very express risk of alienating a large portion of my audience, science doesn't care what Proverbs says. I'm all for taking biblical principles and
Whoa, let me rewind that. Let me where are my people who like to read the Bible? Yes, Crystal Chan, thank you. It's very mature. So some people have seen. Yes. Where are my people that love to throw that Bible at me? Yo, Just J be dodging that Bible when y'all throw it at me. Because I understand it. But check this out. Listen to her again. Give her that information again. Let's give him that information again.
but there is a correlation, and it matters. Don't come at me and tell me that the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil a child.
Does she not? Guys, I'm just asking. It seems like me and her have a very similar mindset. Does she not sound just like me? Does she not sound like what y'all hear on this channel all the time? I'm just asking a question.
With the very express risk of alienating a large portion of my audience, science doesn't care what Proverbs says. I'm all for taking biblical principles and making them into positive parts of your life, but I will not let you take a biblical proverb from the Old Testament and use that as your reasoning to hit your child. If you want to continue doing that, I want you to do that under the knowledge that science, medicine, and every agency that is out to protect children's rights disagrees with you.
And I also want you guys to think about this. There was a point in time in our history, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this or not, but how many people have ever heard of this thing called slavery, in which they use that same Bible to justify having slaves and beating your slaves and treating your slaves like animals? Huh? But we want to use that same Bible to say that yes, it's okay to hit our kids, but it's not okay to beat our slaves. It don't sound like beating somebody up is really a good thing either way it goes in either scenario. I'm just saying. That same Bible, I could be wrong. I'm just saying.
Using the Bible to justify something which we clearly see to be negatively affecting our children is wrong. If you want to argue in the comments, I would really appreciate if you would really take an introspective look at why. You are trying to justify your right to physically hurt your child in attempts to improve their behavior, knowing that it does not scientifically improve their behavior, but it does scientifically improve the chances of them being aggressive as adults. That's what we're trying to justify. I don't normally make videos like this. I don't normally get halfway through a Philip DeFranco video, stop it, and come up here and film something, but I can't understand the need to justify this. I just wanted to put the literature out there. I just wanted you guys to have the information that I have. We don't use our hands to hurt other people. This is the philosophy in our house. I want them to continue to watch myself, my husband, all of us interact without purposefully using our hands to hurt other people. I don't ever want them to be confused about if maybe it's okay to do that sometimes. It's not okay It's just not okay. When I was walking up the stairs thinking I'm gonna make this video, I thought, okay, well, I'll just end it saying like, whatever you decide to do, you know, that's your prerogative. But I'm not ending it like that. This isn't your prerogative. It's not backed by science. It increases the chances your child will be physically violent, and it encourages physical violence or using your hands to try to change the behaviors of other people. None of those things are good. If you're sitting here trying to justify why it's okay, give some really deep thought into what is prompting you to need to do that. Let it go. It is so much better to use your words, to use your mind, and to discuss and have a conversation. Philip DeFranco goes on to talk about quiet time, alone time, getting his kid away from the situation that's causing such angst, especially in a 2-year-old. And there's so much value in that. We can do so much better. You are better than this. You do not have to hit your children to make them be good. You don't. It doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make...
Now, I want you guys to make sure and check out her video. And by the way, shout out to her, the doctor and the building man. But I've always been stressing this on the channel pretty much since I've started. But I hope this just kind of reinforces, or if anything, I just want you guys to keep an open mind. And that's all I'm really asking for, is for people that do still spank. I've actually had people that have joined the channel and sent us messages and actually let us know that watching our channel has actually caused them to want to do different, and they don't even spank their kids anymore. And I respect that so much, the fact that, you know, we look at it and say, what are we going to lose by learning a different way to manage our children? You're not going to lose anything. If anything, if you can learn to control your child and not necessarily control them, I look at it as guiding them, because I want you guys to understand this. This is the way that I parent my daughter since day one. I don't want to force my daughter to do anything. I do not want to force her into doing anything. I do not want my daughter to learn by force, to learn anything or accept anything by force. Think about that, especially if you're a parent raising a girl. Would you want anybody to force your child into doing something? So I want my child to automatically know that force is never a good thing in anything. I'm not going to force anything. Okay? So what I teach her is that here are your options. This is what daddy thinks is the best option. And if you want to know why I think it's the best option, I will tell you why it's the best option. And if you go down this path, this is what it's going to give you in return. Now, is that going to take more energy, more time, more brain power? Yes, it is. But that's why it's also better to start the best method of parenting from the moment that those children are born. Because if your kid is already 7 years old or 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, then they might already have their mind set up to be something completely different. And that's why I encourage people to make sure and at least look at this and think a little bit differently. And let's see if we could just do better as parents. It's 2020 and the mind is a very powerful thing. Give yourself credit, give the human being, the child that you have created, give them credit, and know that we can do better together. That's all I'm asking. This is your boy DJ Just J. That's going to close out this particular video, okay? Thank you.